Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of our 30-day challenge, Wim Hof Yoga Fusion. Today we're going to do 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing. The third round we will take a plank in the breath hold. Obviously you don't want to do that, that's also fine. And then we're going to talk through and go through the sun salutations, which are brilliant ways to warm up the body for any form of yoga. And they will exercise every part of the body, but they're also quite gentle. So we'll go through those, and then later on in our practice it'll be really handy for you to have those in your toolbox. We'll also look at Warrior 2 and Triangle Pose. And then just finish bringing the energy down onto the mat with some light stretches. Okay, so let's get into this. If you haven't already liked the video, like it and please subscribe. Okay, so join me on the mat. In the final breath hold for 1 minute with the breath completely out, we're going to hold a plank. So you can either do a plank on your knees, or you can take the full plank like so, keeping the back nice and straight, pulling up through the core, keeping the hands underneath the shoulders and keeping the shoulders working so we're not collapsing into them. Okay, let's start. Got round number 1. We're going to do 30 big in-breaths. You can either breathe in through the nose or the mouth. Any way it goes in, it's all good. In and out. Belly, chest, head, let it go. Bring the air into the belly, the chest, the head, and then let it go. So we're breathing right down, pushing down into the diaphragm. And so we're filling the belly and then the chest, and then push some air up into the head. Releasing air at 70% or just passively. So it's a forced in-breath at 100% of the amount of air you can get in. And we just release gently. Okay, so let's keep going. In and out. We're making the breathing circular. So there's no gaps between the in-breath and the out-breath. There's no hold at the top or the bottom. Just keep going. We've got 10 more breaths here. Make them as big as you can. If you don't want to breathe through your nose or your mouth, as Wim says, it doesn't matter. Just get the air in. Okay, keep going. We're doing really well. We've only got a few more together this round, so let's make them big. 4 more. 3 more. 2 more. Okay, let's take our last breath. This is a big one. And then release all of the air. Close down the eyes. Focus on the sensations in the body. If you find that you are air is seeping into the face, into the nose, then you can close your nose with your fingers, pinch your nose shut. I keep some pressure at the back of my face to stop that, but do what works for you. I've been doing this for a long time, so I've tried lots of different techniques, and that's my favourite. So really, rather than concentrate on holding your breath, and we're only doing a minute breath hold here, so if you want to hold it longer, I'll cue you put 10 seconds to go. Rather than concentrate on holding your breath, concentrate on the sensations in your body. Okay, 10 seconds left together. If you want to hold your breath for longer, pause the video now and join me when you're ready. Okay, recovery breath in, force up the air, pull up on your perineum, the sex organs, the stomach, the throat, up into the head, so you're tensing all the muscles from the base of your spine up into your head. Hold it, push it, and then let go. Amazing. Let's get straight on to round 2. In and out. In and out. Imagine it's like waves on the shore coming in and out. Belly, chest, head, let it go. Belly, chest, head, let it go. If you're new to the Wim Hof practice, and you find that you get a bit panicky with the breathing, or that maybe an hour later or so you get a bit panicky, then I would suggest that to start with you do it through your nose until you get used to it. That will prevent that from happening. And what we're doing with this breathing is putting our body into hormetic stress. We're creating a more alkaline body and blood work, and that is going to get into the deepest core of your anatomy. So we're not just changing the chemical aspect, but we're also changing the way you will 10 more here, the way you actually what DNA that your body uses. because obviously we all have lots of different genes that are different and we don't use them. And this will actually fire up 5 more genes that may have been dormant, but will be much healthier and create a better body system. Okay, this is our last one. Take this breath out, all out, if you can, and then we're going to hold that for 1 minute 30 seconds. So again, what I'd like to do is just go inside. If you're feeling tingling in the feet or the hands, that's all good, or many muscle contractions, so your fingers are moving by themselves, that's good. It's really getting the oxygen around the body, and because we've blown out all of the carbon dioxide, the oxygen has nowhere to go at first, so we get this gradual uptake of the oxygen in a very, very beautiful fashion, which is why we can hold our breath, because we don't need air in the lungs when our body is so oxygenated. It's a very, very beautiful way of resetting the immune system and of getting into the deepest parts of our body and just resetting and healing, getting into the deepest elements of our brain. We've done 1 minute, so that's amazing. If you want to take a breath before, you can. And if you want to hold it for longer, I'll queue up at 10. The beauty of this practice is it makes you feel so good on so many different levels. We've got 10 seconds left if you want to pause the video. 5 seconds left. You're doing really well. Let's get ready to take recovery breath in now. Huge belly breath, pulling up through the spine, the root lock, the stomach lock, the throat lock. Pull it upwards, force the air into the head, into the pituitary, into the pineal gland, really detoxifying those structures in the brain. And release. Amazing. Let's go straight on to round 3. In and out. Belly, chest, head, let it go. Belly, chest, head, let it go. Beautiful. You're doing so well. Just keep going at this pace. It's really, really, really a beautiful thing to do. And people say they find the breathing a bit boring. Well, I would say then really, instead of focusing on what you need to do during the day or what you're going to do next and just think of this as a chore, really focus on the sensations in the body, lean into them, and when you're feeling tingling or whooshing in the ears or any lightheadedness, intensify it, breathe into it more, enjoy the practice. It's so, so good, and it's just taking time for yourself to heal, to de-stress. This is just such a beautiful, relaxing process. 10 more. Keep going. 10 more breaths together. These are our last ones today, so make them really big, really force that air in. Really embrace this practice. 5 more together. Keep going. In and out. Big ones now. In and out. We're going to take our last breath of this practice. Let it all out. And then if you're going to come into a plank with me, do so now. And we're just holding this plank with the breath out. And just feel the strength in those muscles that has been created by oxygenating the body in such a way. The power and the motivation is it just brings those things together. So you want to do more, you feel motivated to go on with this beautiful practice. It's such a gift. And just hold this plank. If you wanted to do push-ups or sit-ups or any other practice, or just stay lying on the mat or sitting, that's also fine. Just remember never to do the actual breathing, standing up or near water. Sit back onto those heels. Take a huge recovery breath in. Hold it. Force it upwards. Hold it. Really now pushing that air into the brain. Imagine you're detoxifying and clearing out any toxins from those structures in the brain now, clearing the glands, firing up the body, and release. I want you to just open your knees a little bit now, fall back into child's pose with the arms extended, and just take some recovery breaths in and out through the nose. Forehead's on the mat, arms are forward, not hunched up near the neck, and we are sitting back onto the heels. We're getting a beautiful compression and a stretch in the lower back and the hips. If you want to sit on a cushion to do this, between your bottom and your feet, do so if you're struggling to sit back onto the heels. The flexibility will come very, very quickly, but for now, do anything you need to do to get to the positions. Okay, so join me on the mat, standing. Breathe in, raise the arms high. Breathe out, bring the hands to heart center. We're going to do an active pranayama. Breathe in, bring the hands high. Breathe out, bring them through heart center. Breathe in, this is tall mountain. Breathe out, bring the hands through heart center. Breathe in, tall mountain, and we'll take a twist here. So the right arm calls forward, the left arm comes back, and we're bumping the hips to the front of the room, looking over the left shoulder. Breathe in, hands to heart center, up. And then we're taking the left arm forward and the right arm back, looking over the right shoulder, bumping the hips to the front of the room, so we're getting a twist in the torso. Breathe in, and we're going to take a side bend to the left, taking hold of the right wrist. Breathe in to centre, take hold of the left wrist and lean over to the right, keeping the body in line. Breathe in to centre. I'm going to take a tree pose. This will help us with our balance during the practice. You can either bring your foot to your ankle, below the knee, just above the knee, or ideally into the thigh. And you can either have your hands at heart centre, or you can raise them up for extra balance. And what I would suggest is you focus on a point in the room, and that will help you balance. Now this is a beautiful pose, not just for balance, but it's a strength building pose, and it's a core building pose. Keeping our body in that Tadasana line, that tall mountain line. Okay, let's change feet. So you can bring the left foot either to the heel, to the below the knee, just above the knee, or into the thigh, and bring the hands to heart center. And if you feel able to, raise them up high. Staying in that beautiful tall mountain or Tadasana line. So we're not leaning out with the hip to keep the balance. The body is in line, and that is going to build your core strength. Okay, so come to the front of the mat and we'll start Sun Salutation A. Bring the hands to heart center, and then we're going to breathe in, raise the hands high, tall mountain. Breathe out and swan dive down to a forward fold, and we'll find movement in this forward fold. So we will try and bring your chest to your thighs, so keep the knees as bent as you need to, and then straighten one knee and then the other. Just finding some movement and stretching those hamstrings. Keep going. Okay, bring those the stomach to the thighs again. Just take that forward fold. We're working the legs towards straight, but if you can't, that's absolutely fine. Now take a flat back position. For this, you can put your hands on your legs or on the floor. Step back into a plank. Now you can either take the plank on your knees to do this, or you can take a full plank, and we're going to lower, like a press up, all the way to the floor, and we're grazing the ribs with our elbows. This is the difference between a chaturanga or a yoga plank, is that the elbows are tucked in, and then we're just raising up to some low cobras. So breathe in, take the head back, breathe out, come back to the mat. And again, breathe in, take the head back, breathe out, back to the mat. And then we're going to come onto your knees, and then we're going to push back by turning the toes under into a downward dog. And I want you to find some movement in this downward dog. The hands are spread open, facing the top of the mat. Even weight through the hands, pushing up through the shoulders away from the mat. The head has no weight in it, and there's a slight arch in the back. So we're not in a C, we're in a V. And just bend one leg and then the other. Heels are slightly turned out and the feet are hips width apart. Okay, just find some stillness now in the dog. And breathe. If you need to keep your knees bent, by the way, that's fine. We're working the heels towards the mat and the legs towards straight, but it will take time, so be patient with yourself. And just breathe in this dog, in and out slowly through the nose. And then step to the front of the mat. Doesn't matter how many steps it takes. And we'll take a forward fold. Breathe out. And then breathe in. Raise those hands up high, above the head, tall mountain. Breathe out, hands to heart center. Let's do sun salutation A again. So breathe in, raise the hands high. And then swan dive with an out breath down to a forward fold. Breathe in, take that halfway lift or monkey pose. You can, as I say, keep your hands on your ankles or on your thighs, because the idea is we get a flat back. Hands to the floor, step back into a plank, either on the knees or full plank. And then again, we're going to lower forward all the way to the mat. And we're going to come up to a full cobra. So hands underneath the shoulders and straighten out those arms. Take the head back. This is cobra pose. And then we're going to, with an out breath, step back into our downward dog. Come back to your breath if you've lost it in a downward dog. In and out slowly through the nose. Downward dog is a master pose and it's really, really good. So we'll use this as a rest pose throughout the next... what have we got left together? 29 days. Downward dog is a really, really, really good pose for all-round body toning. Okay, step forward to the front of the mat. Fold forward with an out breath. Raise those arms up high. Breathe in, tall mountain. And breathe out, bring the hands to heart center. Let's do sun salutation A again. Breathe in, raise the arms high, tall mountain. Breathe out, swan dive down to a forward fold. Remember, you can keep your legs bent. Breathe out, tall flat back. And then we're stepping back into that plank. And then lower to the floor. And we'll come up into that cobra with an in-breath. Take the head back if you can, if it's comfortable. If there's any pain in the neck, don't take the head back. Turn the toes under. And step back into that downward dog. And breathe. If you can follow along with the breathing that I'm queuing up, that's brilliant. But it may take a while. You may need to take more breaths. But you will get used to it. So just go for it, but with the downward dogs, come back into it. Right, step forward to the front of the mat. Breathe out with a forward fold. And then breathe in. Raise the hands to heart above the head and then to heart center. Breathe in. Tall mountain. Breathe out. Swan dive to a forward fold. Breathe in, halfway lift. Breathe out, step back to a plank. And then we're going to lower, this time chaturanga, but you don't have to do this. You can come all the way to the floor. So either upward dog or cobra, for those of you that have done this before. So upward dog is the same as a cobra, but the knees are off the floor. And then back into your downward dog. So you can choose now, either press up so we don't go all the way to the floor, which is chaturanga, or you can stay with the cobras. Okay, step to the front of the mat, fold forward, foot out, breathe out, and as you breathe in, raise those hands up high above the head, tree pose. Okay, we're going to do sun salutation B now. It's slightly more tricky, but it's very, very good for us. Okay, so as we breathe in, we're going to come into chair pose with no weight in those toes. If it's too much to raise the arms up high, then you can bring them to heart center. Forward fold with an out breath. In breath, halfway lift. Out breath, step back into plank and either chaturanga or lower all the way to the floor and cobra. Upward dog or cobra, and then fold over those feet back into downward dog. And this is where we're going to change. So step the right foot forward to the front of the mat. Turn the back heel down at 30 degrees. The front foot is turning upwards. Bend into that front knee and raise the arms off the mat. This is warrior one. The hips are facing forward. The knee is over the toes, but not tracking over. And we're set up, folding in the ribs and sitting up tall through the body. Okay, breathe out, come back to our plank pose and chaturanga. That's all one breath. And then upward dog is an in-breath. And then back to downward dog. We'll take that the other side. So we're going to step forward with the left foot this time. Turn the back heel down, the right heel down, so it's facing at 30 degrees. Hips facing the front of the room. And then raise up those hands away from the ears and internally rotate the shoulders so the pinkies are turning to each other. So we're bending down to that front knee, but the weight is even through both legs. Come back to our plank and either chaturanga or lower all the way to the floor to do a cobra. So cobra or upward dog, and then breathe out, downward dog. Come back to your breath here. So that's the basis of a sun salutation B, and each of those moves has a breath with it. And this one does take longer to get used to. So step to the front of the mat, forward fold, and then chair. And then come up to standing, hands at heart center. Let's take sun salutation B again. Okay, so we're going to breathe in and we come to the chair. And we breathe out, forward fold. Breathe in, halfway lift. Breathe out, step back into a plank, chaturanga, either lower all the way in cobra or do chaturanga, upward dog. And then flip over those toes and come into a downward dog. We're going to do it with a three-legged dog this time. So we're going to raise the right leg high, step through to between the hands, turn the back heel down, and then raise up into our warrior one. That's all one breath, raising up to warrior one. And then the out breath is coming into the plank, lowering in chaturanga, and then breathe in, upward dog, breathe out, downward dog. Let's take it to the other side. So this time the left leg is going to lift high. This is called three-legged dog. You don't have to obviously get it as high as mine. And the hips are even in that pose. Step through to the front of the mat, turn down the right heel and raise those arms up. This is all one breath, in breath. That's warrior one. And then breathe out, back to our plank. And either chaturanga into upward dog or all the way to the floor into cobra. Turn over those heels, over the toes and back into downward dog. Breathe out. Remember, use this downward dog to come back into a nice, even, steady breath in and out through the nose. It does take a lot to get used to, especially sun salutation B. Step to the front of the mat, fold forward, breathe out, and then with an in-breath, chair pose. Hands to heart center. Okay, we're going to take that again. Breathe in, chair. Breathe out, forward fold. Breathe in, halfway lift. Breathe out, plank, chaturanga, upward dog or cobra. Flip over those toes to downward dog. Raise the right leg high. Step through, breathe in, warrior one. So turning that back heel down, raise up over those hips. Look back if you can. Breathe out, plank, chaturanga. Breathe in, upward dog. Breathe out, downward dog. Left leg high, breathe in. Breathe out, step forward, turn the heel down. Breathe in, upward dog, warrior one, I beg your pardon. Breathe out, plank, chaturanga. Breathe in, upward dog. Breathe out, downward dog. Amazing. Well done. If you're still with me, then you did really well. If you're not, come back to your breath here. It does take some getting used to. I didn't learn this overnight, to control the breath with the movement. So just enjoy it. Okay, take the right leg high. And we're going to come into a low lunge at the front of the mat. So the back heel still stays turned up. Look at forward, and then turn the back heel down, and we're going to windmill the arms open and come into warrior two. This time the hips are open, they're not facing the front of the room, so they're open to the side of the room. The shoulders are open, the body is over the bottom, and we're knitting in the ribs and pulling up through the torso. This is a full body experience, warrior two, and we're gazing over those front fingers. Make sure the knees are over the toes but not tracking over. And even weight through both legs. Okay, straighten that leg out, and we're going to come into triangle pose. Now the triangle pose, you can either bring your hand to your thigh or your ankle or to a block. Or if you're feeling more flexible, you can bring it to the floor like so. And we gaze up to the top arm. But if that's not accessible, if there's pain in your neck, then you can just gaze forward. The legs are in the same position as they were with warrior two. So the hips are still open, but we do have a straight leg. Okay, bring the other hand to the mat. Come back to that low lunge at the front of the mat. Step back. And we'll come into a plank. Breathe out. Chaturanga. Breathe in. Upward dog. Breathe out. Downward dog. Come back to your breath. We'll take those on the other side. So raise the left leg high. Three-legged dog. Step through. We're going to come into a low lunge. I got confused here, but we are definitely going to come to a low lunge. And then turn that back heel down, windmill the arms open, and come into that warrior two at on the other leg, on the left leg forward. Okay, so we're gazing over those front fingers, and the shoulders are away from the ears. We're knitting in the ribs and pulling up through the body. Really bending into that front knee. The back foot is turned in at about 30 degrees, and everything's working. Straighten the leg. We're going to come into triangle pose. So you can either bring the hand to the ankle, the thigh. Remember not to use the knee. We don't want to put any pressure on the joint. Or you can bring your hands to a block. And if it's accessible, gaze up to the ceiling. And if not, just go straight ahead. Trikonasana, triangle pose. These are just some very basic moves that are used a lot in yoga. So these are really good ones to have in the toolbox. Okay, come back to that low lunge at the front of the mat. Step back to a plank and breathe out into chaturanga, and we're going to come all the way to the floor, this time. So we're going to take hold of the feet. This is called half bow pose. Take out the outside of your feet, and we're going to raise everything off the mat. So it's a beautiful back bend. It's a shoulder opener. And this actually uses every muscle group in the body. So it's also a great stretch and a strengthen. So raise the head back. Keep it in line with the neck if it's any discomfort. And just really, really get everything off the mat and breathe. Excellent. Lower down to the mat. Just take a few recovery breaths. That's quite a tough pose, but we will use it a lot over the next few days. Okay, and then just come back into a wide-legged child's pose. So the knees are open, the hands are outstretched, and just breathe. Forehead to the mat. Really just take these beautiful child's poses as a rest as well. Okay, we're going to come into another foundational pose, which is amazing for the core, and it's called boat pose. So we're sitting on the sitting bones, raise the legs off the floor, the feet off the floor, and if you can, let go of the behind the knees, and we're just using our core strength to hold us in this boat pose. It's a really good core strengthener, but it's also very good for balance and also mental strength. We will do a lot of boat poses, so it's a great one to have. Okay, now roll back onto your back. Keep the knees bent towards the bottom. And we're going to do bridge pose, which is also a really good yoga basic. Okay, so lifting the bottom and the lower spine off the mat, so the weight's on the shoulders. Push up through the heels, push up through the knees, trying to squeeze the legs together, although your feet are hips width apart. But that's the action. So we're not splaying the legs out, we're squeezing them together. Don't turn your head in this pose because it's a strong cervical stretch. Okay, lower the bottom to the floor. Bring the hands to either straight out to the sides or goal posts. And then rock the knees over to the right and look over the left shoulder. So we're looking over the left shoulder, and the left shoulder is staying glued to the mat. So we're getting a twist all the way from the top of your head down into the base of your spine. We'll do lots of twists as well in this practice, because they're really good at shaping the waist, but also getting deep into the organs and detoxifying and wringing out any junk. Bring them back to centre and take them to the other side. So take them over to the left, looking over the right shoulder, keeping the right shoulder glued to the mat. You're doing really well. This is but coming to the end of our practice. We're just going to do a little breathing exercise, and then you can get on with your day. Okay, roll up to sitting. Join me at the front of the mat in cross-legged pose, or easy pose. Or if you're having your practice, you can do a lotus or half lotus. And we're going to do something called sitali breath. So the breath is we're going to breathe in through the nose, and we're going to breathe out through the tube-shaped tongue. So we breathe in through the nose, put your tongue into a tube and breathe out through the mouth. Breathe in through the nose, put your tongue into a tube and breathe out through the mouth. If you can't make your tongue into a tube genetically, okay, repeat that in through the nose and out through a tube-shaped tongue. Then just breathe through the back of your teeth with the tongue at the back of the teeth. Breathe in through your nose, make the tongue into a tube, breathe out through the mouth. Sitali breath is very, very good at relaxing the body. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Amazing. You've done so, so well. One last breath together and breathe out. Amazing. Bring the hands to heart center. May the long-time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the divine light within you guide your way on. From my heart to yours, Namaste, Sat Nam. I hope you enjoyed day 2. Tomorrow we will put those sun salutations to practice, and we will flow into more yoga asana. It will still be a relatively gentle practice. We're going to build up. So I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you on the mat tomorrow.